Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Scott. Happy to have you stopping by today. Today we're going to be talking about if you can't find this in its fancy tube, buy this. What exactly is in my glass? We're going to talk about that today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So as we know, Buffalo Trace products overall for the vast majority of people can be at times difficult to find. People do some absolutely crazy things, specifically the E.H. Taylor lineup. Overall, it's a great little bourbon to have, but I think it gets a little blown out of proportion as to it being a must-have bourbon, things along those lines. So today I wanted to talk about a great alternative to not being able to get your hands on this and its fancy little tube. There are a lot of great bourbons that are out there. The one I'm going to actually do a comparison to is from Buffalo Trace Distillery on its own and is much more readily available, and in my opinion is a fantastic comp to the E.H. Taylor small batch as a whole. So what exactly can that bourbon be? We're going to talk about that right now. So there you go. The cat is out of the bag, and in my opinion, the Benchmark Single Barrel is a fantastic comp to the E.H. Taylor small batch. Now, stay with me on this. I know this is a small batch product, and I know this is a single barrel product. However, the profile of them seem to be, in my opinion, very, very similar. And even though, again, this is a small batch and probably thousands of barrels that are blended together to create this, again, on its own is a single barrel, again, proof down to 95 proof. But overall, I think the profile of each are very similar. So if you're one of those people that always say, hey, I can never find anything from Buffalo Trace, and this is sitting on the shelf wherever it is you live, I would highly recommend you picking up this Benchmark Single Barrel over, again, their small batch, probably ahead of the full proof at 125 proof, even though admittedly, I think it's still at 125 proof, a softer drinking type of bourbon. But again, in my opinion, what it is that the Benchmark Single Barrel has to offer is a really fantastic or very similar type of profile to the E.H. Taylor small batch. Again, I understand that this is a small batch, this is a single barrel, but the comparison was to try to find something that was far more readily available versus something that is extremely difficult for a lot of people to kind of come across. So I got lucky-ish with this while in Chicago, and it just happened to be there and was fortunate enough to get it. But again, I wouldn't do crazy things or spend a lot of time trying to seek this out. Again, it was just available. Overall, if you can find the Benchmark Single Barrel, I think you're going to be in the same type of category as far as what the flavor profiles have to offer. Again, the FOMO of this, I get it. People want this. This is more readily available and oftentimes kind of just sits around. But if you're looking for something that have similar-ish kind of profiles, again, I would direct you right towards the Benchmark Single Barrel. So to give you a little idea of its kind of flavor profile, let's just kind of go through a few of these things. We'll give you kind of a quick nosing and tasting notes just to let you know a little bit about what you can expect from the Benchmark Single Barrel. So right away, you do get a lot of that kind of tried and true bourbon profile. So you do have the soft caramels, a little bit of oak that's there. But again, the signature that Buffalo Trace seems to have oftentimes is this either light citrus, like maybe even a lemon, or like a green apple type of note to it. But overall, it has this softness, very approachable kind of nose to it. You know, soft oaks, again, more vanilla, a little bit of that kind of either citrusy note and or that kind of green apple note that's there. Kind of feels like a soft, maybe caramel apple, if that makes any sense. But let's give you a better idea of what this one's going to taste like. Cheers. So for me, nose and palate are pretty spot on. Again, a little bit of that green apple. Maybe a little bit of a light citrus note, a little bit of a lemon. But again, I'm going to kind of gravitate a little bit more towards those soft vanillas, caramels, little hint of oak and rye spice that are there. much more kind of caramel, green apple, things along those lines. So I think overall, as an alternative to not being able to find this and a fancy tube, I think you would do yourself wonders by just trusting your gut and maybe picking up one of these either single barrels. They do have a small batch. They have the benchmark full proof, which is 125 proof. So there are some options much more affordable in terms of what it is you're kind of getting. And really, I don't think this is necessarily a comp to price, because on its own, this is probably a $45, maybe $50 bottle. This is probably half of that, and again, more readily available. So for me, that's why my suggestion would be, if you can't find an E.H. Taylor small batch, look for the benchmark single barrel. I think it's 100% worth picking up, and a really nice comp if we're talking about general or overall flavor profiles. Now, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this as a comparison, and or in terms of the general availability versus a bourbon that is much more difficult to find, not as easy to secure? Is this, in your opinion, a really nice kind of alternative, or is there something that you would recommend more so than this in place of not being able to find the E.H. Taylor small batch? Thank you everyone for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it as always. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel and become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, make sure you check out the Patreon link in the description below. That down there, along with other great things for you as well. And with that, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.